Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents, world YouTube, and fellow Canadians. I'm here in Abbotsford, BC. I'm running as your mayor. It's well documented of what took place here in Abbotsford to own the city, threaten residents. It was a mob, a vicious mob. But what happened here in Abbotsford is our Abbotsford APD was being owned by an elite ring of organized businessmen and politicians. My goal as Abbotsford resident here is to run for your mayor and get the RCMP in and give Abbotsford its voice back and give financial. We're going to go under for investigations and we're going to go under audits, financial audits of what was taking place. When Braun became the mayor of Abbotsford, Henry Braun set up an establishment, an elite ring to lift jobs. He was awarding jobs to his friends. They weren't going to tendering on Abbotsford residents, and we saw the whole thing. When Braun knew his son was telling, Braun used his connection and his friends in our Abbotsford Police Department to start threatening. It was well documented thanks to the Mission RCMP men and women of Keelan Olenoff stating, drop a video and lawsuits against Henry, I'll personally bury you. It was well documented of Abbotsford's task force after a South Asian councillor Mogil and what the task force did on me through the election. That whole goal was to keep this elite organization under the police department in operation and in business, running from the back doors. I showed you videos of Ron Funkadivers, how they were lifting jobs. I showed you Marcus Dalvish. I showed you many elite organized things. Insider trading, racketeering, the whole thing. Henry Braun knew Mike DeYoung and Ed Fast would back him up, and he went in to win the city councillors called Abbotsford First over. Henry took his son in front of him, Darren Braun. Darren Braun started leaking information of how his dad was going to become filthy rich, the jobs, and all the contracts from the federal and provincial governments, and who was covering it. It was a Mission RCMP, I want to state, the Mission RCMP. When Braun started to threaten with the Abbotsford police, here's what they said. Go to your MP and your MLA, and now you need help, and you need the OCP, Police Complaints Commission, of why elite top investigators are allowing this to happen and doing this. As mayor of Abbotsford, the first thing I'm going to do is knock them flying. We're coming into our tax season here on the 1st of July. The Abbotsford APD is asking for $900. Under my mayorship, they're going to be wiped right out. They're going to be out this summer showing you strength. They're going to be probably training their dogs. They'll be out on bikes. They're going to do everything in this community to save their ass. That's what it boils down to. They're going to be out in full force getting drinking drivers. They'll be out checking trucks. They're everything. It'll be a move to try to win public persuasion over that we're doing good. Let me tell you what they did. They failed to do criminal reports when eyewitnesses saw Henry get in his car and try to end my life. They told me that Henry was their boss and they weren't going to go charge him. And Henry ran Abbotsford. These officers used uniform as a way of protection to hold Abbotsford community down, block Abbotsford community and the law for their friends. It was a buddy-buddy system. I make no mistake when I tell you that we got to come in and we got to clean it, and it needs the RCMP. I showed you how Ron Funkadivers was. I showed you the Cooper's Farm. I showed you this. People on the Mackenzie Bog got deadly sick, and city officials weren't standing up to find them people because it was a buddy system. But I want to tell you why I stand on the world stage. I want to stand on the world stage because it gave me my freedom back. It halted Abbotsford police from making false accusations. You saw them through the elections, how they were going to stop me, get my driver's license. You saw them with the DUI the other day, and they failed investigations. This is a buddy-buddy system. There is no man up here that's worth saving. They need their ass kicked. They need to be held out. They need to be showed to the general community and everything. Abbotsford residents, when they went to the city, Henry Braun was blocking them and using the Abbotsford newspaper. Vicky Hopes and Ken, which were his friends. When I learned what I learned from Darren Braun, I stood on the world stage because it wasn't a conspiracy. It was an elite establishment owning Abbotsford, and our law enforcement had failed when it could jump to the public's out on the social media or out in the newspaper, crime, gangs, one of us died. But behind the scenes, these elite, dirty, filthy players were involved in high organized crime for job sites. I want to tell you what brought me here. When Abbotsford residents had their homes damaged by a negligence of the mayor and a contractor, it's in the mayor and council's best interest to go and help their citizens and the people that vote for him. He didn't. Henry Braun knew that he was lifting land and jacking land, and he started threatening. He knew when I took to social media, Vicky Hopes couldn't hold it down, Ed Fast couldn't hold it down, and Mike DeYoung couldn't hold it down. Then Henry had to buy, in my opinion, and pay elite muscle, big muscle for intimidation. And that muscle was called the Abbotsford APD. As I stand on the world stage, you could see the Abbotsford police figured if they would use their company and this police force to block all investigations, it would help Henry Braun, from his hit and run, from his threats, from the stuff in the election to everything. They held paperwork down. That paperwork and them charges would have buried them that they were incompetent. They stole $71 million, Darren Brown showed me, on the police building to inflate your taxes. It wasn't that the police needed it. Henry was taking job sites and awarding it to his friends without going to tendering, and that way it was kickbacks to the contractors, Unitech and everybody else. He knew he controlled Abbotsford first, the majority of them, and they were winning the decisions. I stand on the world stage for all Canadians, all mayors, and all politicians and all police forces to say, I am grateful with Abbotsford residents to the mission men and women that work in the RCMP. And today I run for mayor to come in and bring the RCMP into Abbotsford to go after the organized crime that was taking advantage of our city, lifting job sites, and threatening Abbotsford residents. Abbotsford police have to and must be dismantled. I would expect Colin Watts now would be working all back doors and everything he can to favors in Victoria and everything because he's in over his head. I told you, you'll see him out in the summer here training their dogs. You'll see him out on bike. You'll see him out doing everything. They're trying to win the favor of Abbotsford community. What took on Abbotsford residents and seniors in a block in an election is not how you do it. You put forward your charges, you talk to witnesses, and you line her up to the court. The Abbotsford men and women couldn't do it. They need to be dragged out of here and kicked out of here, and we need to put law enforcement in here, and we need to go after the jobs. What makes me sick inside the stomach the most is when Abbotsford APD went after Councillor Mogel, the South Asian, that decided he had enough of Henry lifting and stealing, and they used their task force to bully him and block him in the election. It was the RCMP admission, said, don't let that go, Mr. Pelican, and I video filmed it. To Chief Watts and your man, I stand on the world stage to have you removed, kicked out, and it doesn't matter about internal investigations and everything. I stand for my community, I stand for the residents, but of all, I stand for the law, and we need the full weight of the law. Let me repeat the words of a judge in Abbotsford. He said, nobody's above the law, Mr. Pelican. Nobody can use the law and no one can bend it. And no one thinks to the end. Abbotsford police didn't think of the end. They thought the company in the uniform would bully and they would run roughshod on Abbotsford. It's gone too far and too long. I'm live, Abbotsford, British Columbia.